Good evening, everybody. Welcome to our free live session brought to you by Talent Sprint. And for today's session, keeping in mind that all of you are busy preparing for all sorts of competitive exams, we thought we'll exclusively focus on one particular challenging question type, otherwise called as, there are various variations to it. There's sentence improvement, phrase substitution, sentence correction, etc. But the best part is, if we are familiar with some basic rules, we can tackle all of these questions, because the basis for all of this is, again, just relying on grammar, right? So grammar is something that a lot of us are not very strong in, and it's almost like an aversion to a lot of us, right? So if we can look at it or approach it differently, right? If there are certain rules that we can fall by, just like for quant and reasoning, there are these shortcut methods, there are these formulas. But for English, right, if we can break it down and make it easier for us, where we can just, have some rules in terms of a reference guide, that will kind of help us, right? We'll be able to quickly know what to look for in those sort of questions and be able to spot the error much more faster, right? So let's quickly go ahead and take a look at those 15 rules. There's quite a bit to cover. So we'll look at these rules through certain examples, right? So as and when you guys join, right, you can just follow. And if you have any questions or doubts, feel free to put it down on the chat, and I'll respond to it accordingly. Okay, so let's get started. So some of you are choosing to be silent observers, which is fine. You can also feel free to introduce yourself and say hi to each other. So here we are with the first question. Hi, Bharat and Muthu. So let's take a look at this question. As soon as you look at this question, you have an idea, right? This is, there's a phrase in the context which is highlighted in bold, and then there are some options. We'll probably have to, look at the options and see if we need to replace the highlighted phrase in the context, right? So this is nothing but phrase substitution or sentence improvement. Either ways, you can look at it. So anybody wants to take a guess and see which one of these options we can replace? And in every question, we're going to look at a rule, right? We're going to learn a rule. So the question is, I love the literature, the music, the art. We have 4 options, and then we have no improvement. So Shubham says option 3, right? So anybody else wants to give it a try? What else do you think? Do you agree with Shubham? Do you think it's some other option? So those of you who said 3, maybe you can try and identify or figure out, what do you think the rule is behind this? Bharat says 1. Okay, Shubham changed his option from 3 to 1. Okay, Hemant says 3. So anybody wants to quickly guess the rule? The obvious thing that is staring in front of us in literature, music, art, right? What are these? Some sort of a literature, academic subjects, right? People take music, people take art, people take literature. So the rule is, you need to omit articles before either academic subjects or, mealtime. Basically, omission of articles, that's the rule, right? There are certain instances, certain situations where you need to omit the article. There are various, like for example, proper nouns, right? With names, we don't use the article in front of proper nouns. We don't use articles in front of abstract nouns, right? So for example, freedom is misused, right? Or honesty is the best policy, right? So honesty and freedom are abstract nouns. So we don't say the honesty is the best policy or the freedom is misused. Are you following? So in this context, we're talking about academic subjects here. So you can omit the. So the only option that gives that is option 1 without the article, right? So that's your, and even at meal time, people say, so did you have breakfast? They don't say, did you have the breakfast? Did you have lunch? They don't say, did you have the lunch, right? So those who said option 1, correct. That is correct, right? So the rule number 1 that you need to keep in mind is omit articles for names of academic subjects, mealtime, proper nouns, abstract nouns, right? Used in a general sense, when you're using it in a general sense, not specifically. Right? So these are things that you need to keep in mind. So the extra, etc. is nothing but, in front of proper nouns, in front of abstract nouns. And this when it is used in a general sense. Right? And there are various other instances where you need to omit the article. Right? You can look it up. So that's the first rule. Let's move on. Let's take a look at this second context that we have. No sooner he had left the office, then it started raining heavily enough to make him completely wet. So where do you think the error is? This is another pattern, right? So Srilata, hi, lots of other people have joined, like Bhargav and Tarun and Gunjan and Preet and Devi, welcome. And most of you got the answer correct for the first question. Who else is there? Let me just take a quick look. Agarwal, Mr. Agarwal is there. Shaikh is there. Hemant. Okay, Hemant and Shubhan, I already said hi. Samsul. Okay, great. So in this question, right, we are familiar with, I'm sure most of you are familiar with this, right? No sooner is followed by then. Hardly is followed by when. Right? This we already know, and if you look at the context, Rashid also is there. Okay. So when we look at the context, no sooner is followed by then. So that rule is fine. So is there anything else? Srilata, go to settings, right hand side below bottom right of the video. Just change your resolution. Change it to HD. So Shubham and Devi says part 2. So this is correct. I keep saying, I keep giving a tip for you to remember. Most of us are confused. See the first letter of no sooner and then I look at it as Tamil Nadu. And H and W, I look at it as WH questions. That's how I remember. I've shared this tip earlier, for you to remember. No sooner will always be followed by then. Hardly will always be followed by when. That's how I remember it. So, but is there any other rule? Hi, Ravi. Most of you are coming back and saying option 2. But the answer is, maybe I'll give another 5-10 seconds to see if anybody is able to identify which part has the error. That's not where the error is. Letting Shubham and Devi and Umang know. That's not the error. Okay, time's up. The error actually is when you have sentences beginning with no sooner, right? What happens is this auxiliary verb had, right? It comes before the subject. Who's the subject here? He, right? He's our subject. Yes, Shubham, correct, right? So all you have to do is you have to invert had he instead of he had, right? So this gets inverted when you have sentences beginning with any sentence, right? No sooner, hardly, all of this. The auxiliary verb precedes the subject. That's the rule. That's rule number 2. So the error is in part 1 where you just have to interchange the auxiliary verb. Auxiliary verb is a helping verb, right? You know that. Has, have, had in this case. Right? That's rule number 2. So remember that. Okay, so quickly to give you a couple of other examples. Think of any sentence that begins with no sooner. What's the usual construction? No sooner. Maybe you can also give some examples. Hi, Mehdi. No sooner had he left the office, right? That's the right construction and the remaining sentence. Think of other example sentences. No sooner had we heard the noise, then we rushed to the spot. Right? So again, reiterating the rule, sentence begins with no sooner, we is the subject, but the auxiliary verb had precedes the subject. That's the rule. Okay, let's move on. So rule number 2, when the sentence begins with no sooner, we use an inverted word order. The auxiliary verb goes before the subject. Moving on. Let's check out this question. These days, very few people bother to do the work entrusted upon them. Where do you think the error is? 4 parts. These days, very few people bother to do the work entrusted upon them. Any guesses? Okay, Devi says 2, Shubham says 3. Let's see. These days, which means nowadays, very few people, seems fine. What's wrong in part 2, Devi? Very few people, quantifying the people, right? How many people? Very few people. What? Bother to do the work. So basically, they don't do their work, right? Whatever is given as a responsibility. Now, your clue word is entrusted, right? Tarun says option 3, and Shubham also says option 3, and that is correct. The error is in option 3. You don't say entrusted upon, you always entrust. Entrust means what? To give as a responsibility, right? So some responsibility is given to this person. So entrusted, you always entrust something to someone, which means the right preposition that should follow is entrust plus to. So the error is in part 3. You delete upon and you add to. Entrusted to them. That's your context, right? So this is nothing but verb plus preposition collocation. I'm sure you know what collocation are, right? Associated words. These two words go together. So usually in many example sentences, if you see the verb entrust, it will be followed by to. Likewise, you need to be familiar with as many verb plus preposition collocations. Think of other examples, right? I mean, I'm just going to give you examples for entrusted to. I entrusted this secret to her, right? I expected her to kind of be responsible enough not to share the secret to others. She was afraid to entrust. There are other collocations also, but predominantly you'll have entrust with also, but predominantly entrust goes with to. Entrusted the children to the hospital. So likewise, verb plus preposition collocations are lots, right? Wait for. You wait for someone, right? You agree with somebody. You admit to something. You apply for something. Are you following? You argue about something. So these are all verb plus preposition collocations. It's good for you to know as many as possible, right? You focus on something. Are you following? Let's look at one more in the same context, right? Collocations. Now, collocations are many, right? This one is verb plus preposition. Let's see if you're able to identify. I'll give you the clue is there is a collocation here. It's incorrect in this given context in front of you. See if you're able to identify it. But I won't say what is the collocation. It's a different collocation. It's not verb plus preposition. Let's read the context. Such natural imagery suggests that the killings were akin with a natural disaster and not a matter of individual responsibility. Where do you think the error is? Such natural imagery suggests that the killings were akin. This is an easy one actually, but let's see. Devidas, very good. So what do you need to change that to? What do you change? Ravi, also good, you got it. The error is in part 2. So what do you change that? Akin is an adjective, right? This is an adjective plus preposition collocation. So akin usually goes with what preposition? That's my question. This is in part 2. So this combination is incorrect. What does akin usually go with? Which is the preposition that I will... I'm sure you understand what akin is, right? The meaning. Having the same or very similar properties. So just for people to understand what this means. Akin, the meaning of this word is having the same or very similar properties, qualities, or preferences. So such natural imagery suggests that the killings were similar to what? A natural disaster and not a matter of individual responsibility. That's what the context. Now that you understood what akin means, the preposition that goes with, yes, Devi has given me, and I am sorry, I missed out. Bestie also gave. That's the right collocation. Akin to, right? So you change with to. So the error is in part 2. So these are adjective plus preposition collocations, right? So think of adjective plus preposition collocations. You know them actually because you've used them. It's just that at the time of the test, you're not able to recollect and apply. Capable of, pleased with, right? These are all adjective plus preposition collocations. Apparent to. Apparent means obvious. Obvious to. Prior to, right? So basically, rule number 3 is you need to be familiar with as many collocations as possible. It's very helpful, not just for spotting the error. It's very helpful for fill in the blanks and close passage question types also. Okay, moving on. So rule 3, be familiar with collocation rules, whether it is verb plus preposition, adjective plus preposition, yeah, noun plus, you have noun plus adjective, adjective plus noun, prepositions, I'm sorry, collocations, right? So the different collocations, just be familiar with as many as possible. The next rule, we need to move a little faster. Reading. Not only the bandits robbed the traveler of his purse, but also wounded him grievously. Grievously. So, where do you think the error is? Now, I'll give you a clue, okay? Pay attention to this correlative conjunction, not only, but also. Thank you, Bhargav. Right? Pay attention to those, not only, but also. When I have not only but also, I need to follow a particular structure. So can somebody, if you're able to recollect what I'm saying, try and identify where the error is. Time's running out. It should follow immediately. It should follow immediately what? See, whenever you have these correlative conjunctions, right? What are correlative conjunctions? Not only but also. Either or. Neither nor. So as. Okay? Anyway, when you have this, right? Basically, what's the function of a conjunction? It connects two clauses, right? Devi and Bhargav are good friends. Just to give you a quick example, right? So the conjunction here is and. What does it do? It connects Devi, one part of speech, and Bhargav, another part of speech. Both are nouns, right? So that's a function. That's a basic function of a conjunction. So these correlative conjunctions follow a structure. What is following? Not only the bandits, which is a noun. Robbed is the verb. But what about but also? But also is following a verb. I need to make sure these two are aligned, which means no. So I need to make changes. So I will say, I'll just make sure this is also, yeah, thank you, bestie. So the error is in part A. All I will do is I will say the bandits, right? Start with the subject. The bandits not only robbed the traveler, but also wounded him. So here, if you see what's happening, not only is followed by the verb, but also is followed by the verb. So there is some sort of a parallel construction. That's what I'm talking about, right? So when you have correlative conjunctions, what you need to look for is there parallel construction? Let's look at one more example with correlative conjunction, just so you understand what I'm saying, right? I'm hoping so far you've followed. Take a look at this. The committee is thankful to Mr. Roy for preparing not only the main report, but also for preparing the agenda notes and minutes. Same concept, right? We are saying not only, but also. Not only is followed by what here? The main report, which is a noun phrase. But also is not followed by the noun phrase. The noun phrase is here, the agenda notes. What is happening here? I have this for preparing, which is not necessary, right? I need to make sure not only, if not only is followed by a noun phrase, I need to make sure that but also is also followed by a noun phrase. Now tell me where the error is. Where is the error? Quickly. The error is in? Come on, guys. Part C. Thank you, Pramod. Part C. That's it. I remove this for preparing. It's redundant. I already have this here in B. There is no need for me to have that again, right? So the committee is thankful to Mr. Roy for preparing not only the main report, but also the agenda notes and minutes. That's it. Error is in part C. I will remove or delete for preparing, which is unnecessary. It's repetitive. I don't need that. And it is not helping the construction. Hi, Sarjanya. Okay, so remember that, right? So that's your rule number 4. When using correlative conjunctions, both clauses, when I say clauses, I'm talking about each sentence, right? Have to have a parallel construction. So just going back to explain what a clause is for some of you. The committee is thankful to Mr. Roy for preparing the main report. That's one clause. The committee is thankful to Mr. Roy for preparing the agenda, notes and minutes. That's the second clause, right? A complete thought. So this not only but also is joining these two clauses. So when that happens, it has to maintain a parallel structure. That's your rule number 4. Moving on. Next context. I told her that it would be all the more better if she herself talked to the groom. Okay. Where do you think the error is? Sarjanya, you just missed 3 errors, which is fine. You can always come back and watch this video. Right? We're moving on to the 5th error. And we need to move at a really fast pace. So what I'm going to do is, just so you take advantage of all the 15 rules, I'm going to not wait for your responses. Okay, I'm just going to move fast. So Bhargav, Shubham and Pramod has said, okay, Bhargav has said part B. Shubham and Pramod have said part C. Let's see who's right. I told her that it would be all the more better. Very good, Pramod. See this? Yeah. So what is the rule? The error is in part C. What I need to remember is I cannot have what is it? I cannot have, yes, when you have ER, right? You can't have more followed by words ending in ER. You can't add these two. Likewise, you can't add most with adjectives ending in EST. That's the rule, right? Yeah. So you remove, you delete more. So I told her that it would be all the better. All the better if she herself talked to the groom. Are you following? So that's rule number 5. Okay. So shall we move on? So rule number 5, double superlatives and double comparatives. So basically it's saying refrain from using ER ending with the word more and EST ending with the word most, right? Moving on. Let's look at our next context. Let's see. Prakash, please answer this for us. My father forbade me not to go through the contents of his letter. Where do you think the error is? The other. Okay. I'll tell you what your clue word is for this. Okay. The clue word is forbade. Right? So this is nothing but, yeah. So what is the meaning of forbade? Forbade itself means what? To command someone not to do something, right? To command a person not to do or have something. So which means I don't need another negative form here, right? My father forbade me to go there or to go through the contents of his letter means he has asked me not to do something. So which means this is redundant here. I will delete not. The error is in part B, right? You can forbade someone from doing something. Yes, that is also correct. But I'm saying the rule is you need to avoid double negatives, right? When you have words, see, for example, if I say by the time she finished typing, it was not hardly 10, right? So in the context, you obviously know you don't need this not here. By the time she finished typing, it was hardly 10, which already gives me the meaning that it was not 10. So these sort of rules are called double negatives, right? So you need to watch out for these sort of errors. Avoid double negatives. That's your next rule, right? Rule number 6, avoid double negatives. Moving on. It is nothing else than foolishness. In this context, where do you think the error is? Or do you think there is any error at all? It is nothing else than foolishness. Saujanya says option A, but option A is just it is, no? What is wrong with it is? Shubham says no error. Yes, Devi, correct. Right? Now, usually nothing but this expression is used in front of a noun phrase. In this context, it's a noun, right? Foolishness. So it's used in front of a noun phrase or even an infinitive. We know what an infinitive, right? To plus verb. But it is used without the to. Noun phrase or infinitive without to, without this to. And what does it mean? What does it convey? It conveys the meaning of only. So here in this context, it is nothing else but foolishness. It is nothing else but only foolishness. That's the meaning it conveys. The error is in part C. You change then to but. So this is another rule that you need to keep in mind. For those of you who didn't know, right? So that's rule number 7. Nothing but is used in front of a noun phrase or an infinitive without the to mean only. So you need to remember this as well. Next context. The Hilton Hotel was fully equipped to offer leisure stay to its clients. Where do you think the error is in this one? The Hilton Hotel was fully equipped to offer leisure stay to its clients. Do you think equipped with? Okay. Equipped itself means what? That they have something, right? It has. So the Hilton Hotel was fully equipped. The word equipped itself means they have what it takes to offer. Yes, Pramod, that's correct. The error is in part C. See this stay, this is a noun, right? So this word needs to be describing what sort of a stay, right? I need a description word. A description word is always an adjective, right? So what is the adjective form of this word? Can somebody quickly tell me? What's the adjective form of leisure? The error is in part C, Bhargav, not B. You change leisure, which is a noun form, to an adjective form to describe stay. Leisurely. Are you following? So you don't need to, yes, equipped can be followed by with, but in this context, equipped gives you that meaning already. Equipped means they have what it takes. The Hilton Hotel was fully equipped. What? To do what? To offer leisurely stay to its clients. So this sort of an error, right? These sort of errors are basically errors pertaining to word class. What's a word class? One word having different forms, right? Jafar, Change your resolution, Jafar. Go to the settings, right hand side bottom corner of your video, and change the resolution to HD. Okay, so word class. The Hilton Hotel was fully equipped to do what? To offer leisurely stay, not leisure stay. You can't have both noun plus noun. You need an adjective describing the stay. Okay, so these are word class errors. You need to figure out whether the word, you need a noun form or an adjective form or an adverb form or a verb form. Right? So that's rule number 8. Be familiar with word class errors, errors pertaining to which form is required in the context actually. So let's move on. One of the most widely spread bad habit is the use of tobacco. This is an easy one. Let me see if you're able to quickly identify the error. The expression itself will help you figure it out. One of the most widely spread bad habit is the use of tobacco. Pramod says A. Think. What's wrong with one of the most? Yes, bestie. Thank you. The error is in part C, right? So what's your rule? The rule is pretty simple. When you have phrases starting with one of the, each of the, some of the, it's always followed by a plural noun number. One among many habits, right? Let's look at some example sentence. One of the reasons why we crave for love is that love is the only cure for loneliness. Right, that's a pretty long sentence. Anyway, so one of the reasons, it's not saying one of the reason. Each of the students is responsible, right? Each of the students, not student. Responsible for doing his or her work. Right? Some of the best games. Again, I'm not saying games. Right? Some of the best games I've seen over the last few years have been ladies' football matches. Okay. I'm sure this example was written by a guy. So anyway, so did you notice one of the reasons, each of the students, some of the best games. So here I need habits. So what sort of an error is this? You just need to remember this. This is a rule, right? The phrase one of the, each of the, some of the is always followed by a plural noun number. That's rule number 9. Okay, moving on. This watch is superior and more expensive than that. Where do you think the error is? This watch. So actually, I think you got a glimpse of what the error was, right? So you obviously know now. This watch is, so the error is in part B, right? You add 2, that's correct. So the rule is pretty simple, right? When you're comparing something, adjectives ending in IOR. So for example, inferior, superior, all of these, junior, senior. If you notice all these in a context, right, you'll always have 2 following it, right? He, quickly some example sentence, he felt inferior to his older sibling. Right? Inferior to. Yeah. So that's the next rule that you need to remember, right? So these sort of, when you're comparing these sort of adjectives ending in IOR, superior to and more expensive than that. So I'm just giving you example sentences. He is junior to me in the firm. Junior plus 2. He is senior to me by 5 years. Yeah, following? So that's the rule. Let's move on. So that's rule number 10. When comparing adjectives ending in IOR, example, all of these examples are followed by to. Next, my brother has ordered for a new book. What to do, Devi? Got to use the online options. We're all tech savvy, learning online. Might as well use them to convey our expressions. I think that's the only mode, right? Yes, Pramod says option C. Are you sure? And Pramod is correct, right? So quickly, option C is where the error is. Yes, that is correct. What you need to do is you need to delete this for. Why? Why do I need to delete this for? What's wrong with that? Now notice this. This is your clue word, ordered, right? These are transitive verbs. Okay, now that might sound a little Greek and Latin for some of you, right? So you have something called transitive and intransitive verbs. I'm assuming most of you know it. If you don't, we'll quickly look at it. So transitive verbs are these regular, transitive verbs take up an object. Okay. So let's say if I say, he loved his house, right? Loved, the verb, his house. He loved what? This is the direct object, right? So he loved his house. Intransitive, it does not have a direct object. So for example, if I say he arrived, that's it. Does not have any direct object. You following? Right? Or if I say he died, right? These verbs don't have any direct object. So intransitive verbs, direct objects do not follow. Transitive verbs, direct objects follow, right? So having said that, in the context, the rule is when the direct object is stated, right? Transitive verbs don't have prepositions after them. So for example, if I say, let's see, if I say, I evaluated the student, right? I evaluated, how do I figure out what the direct object is? It answers the question who or what. I evaluated who? The student. He loved what? His house. So this verb is a transitive verb, right? It takes up direct object and I don't have any preposition after evaluated. I don't say evaluated on the student. Incorrect. So there are a lot of, so transitive verbs usually don't take up a preposition. That's what I'm trying to say. That's the rule, right? So for example, if I say, I promptly answered his questions, right? I don't say I promptly answered to his questions. Incorrect. I promptly answered what? His questions. So are you following? So the error is in part C, 4. Keep that in mind. What's the error? I mean, rule, transitive verbs do not use a preposition when the direct object is stated. So look up a lot of transitive verbs just to give you examples. Admire, maintained, right? These are all transitive verbs. Loved, and we looked at 2 more. Answered, evaluated. In our context, ordered. Moving on. They decided to arrange a grand party on the eve of her retirement, especially as she had been working for the firm since almost 20 years. This is another easy one. Let's see if you're able to identify where the error is. So we've covered how much? We've covered 11 rules, 4 more rules to go. How are we doing? They decided to arrange a grand party on the eve of her retirement, part A, especially as she had been working for the firm, part B, since almost 20 years, part C. Perfect. Pramod and Shubham, right? So part C. People tend to overlook this, but it's a simple error, right? We're talking about a period of time. So the rule is you always use for plus a period of time, and you always use since plus a specific point in time, right? That's the rule. Yes, so since is incorrect. The error is in part C. You replace since with for. That's it. So that's your rule number 12. For plus a period of time, since plus a point in time. Moving on. That was quick. He was sleeping in his room when a thief entered into his house and took away a lot of things. He was sleeping in his room when a thief entered into his house and took away a lot of things. Where do you think the error is? C. What's wrong with C? Broke. Okay. Yes, that is correct, right? We just saw, right? One of it, you can almost apply this to the previous one where we said, hey, transitive verbs don't take up prepositions. However, the rule that I want to point out in this is it's not D, it's C, right? Entered into. Entered itself means what? What's the meaning of entered? When I say I'm entering, which means I'm either going or coming into some place, right? That's the meaning, correct? So having said that, I don't need that into. It's very redundant in meaning. It's unnecessary. It's superfluous. So I will remove that. I don't need that. Entered itself means yes, to go or come into some place. So this into is unnecessary. Error in part C. Now these are called superfluous, right? Unnecessary words in the context. I don't need this words. So I need to keep them, remember them, and keep that in mind. Yes, you remove into. That is correct. Okay, perfect. Remove into. Yes, that is correct. Devi. Let's move on. So rule 13, watch out for superfluous words. Next, the merit of these books are known to everyone. Okay, let's go back. Bestie has a doubt. Is it this one, Bestie? What's wrong with she had been? Okay, now quickly, just for Bestie's sake, if you look at the context, Bestie, 2 actions are there in the past, right? This is an error pertaining to tense, but like you are saying, right? One is them deciding. The other one is that she had been working. Now, whenever you have 2 actions in the past, the first action is always in the perfect continuous. Here it is perfect. Present perfect. I'm sorry, past perfect, because we're talking about the general tense in the context is past. Past perfect continuous tense. Right? And decided is simple past. That's the second action. So this is fine as it is. There is no error in this. It's absolutely fine. They decided to arrange a grand party. This is the second action. Why? Because she had been working for the firm for almost 20 years. Are you following? So here, there's no error in this. This is fine. The error is here. Incorrect preposition. Okay, so where were we? We finished this. We said we were here. So the merit of these books are known to everyone. Gunjan says B, the merit of these books. Okay. But quickly to point out, Gunjan, this is an error pertaining to, this is my subject, which is a singular subject. So I hope you're following what I'm trying to say. If this is a singular subject, no, I need a singular verb. Is. Subject-verb agreement. Right? Remember, when it comes to subject-verb agreement rules, there are lots of rules. Yes, you change are to is, the error is in part C. Okay? So these are subject-verb agreement rules. You need to keep them in mind. Right? So rule number 14, subject-verb agreement rules. So there are lots of rules when it comes to subject-verb agreement rules. You just need to remember them. Okay? Just to give you an idea, let me see. Let me come up with a. So if I say, I am sure, okay, neither the house nor its contents or contents is for sale. Where do you think the error is in this? I'm sure neither the house nor its contents is for sale. This is another subject-verb agreement rule, right? Where I'm saying the house is my singular subject, right? But contents is a plural subject. Gunjan, finally one correct. Huh? Which means another rule for subject-verb agreement is when you have neither nor and when there are two subjects, the verb will agree to the nearest subject, right? So this has to be changed to are, right? So subject-verb agreement rules, there are lots of rules. You just need to be familiar with all of them, right? Our last rule for the day, 15th rule. If I had a lot of money, I will not stay here. So as soon as you see the sentence, you know it's pertaining to a specific rule. What is that rule? That's correct, Biswajit. So moving on to our next rule. What are these? Are you sure, Pramod? It's in B? The error? For the last one? If I had a lot of money, I will not stay here. Yes, that's it. Right? Raj is correct. Not will, but would. What is the rule here? It's an if conditional, right? Remember the if conditionals? First conditional, second conditional, third conditional. For those who don't know, right? The form for this is the second conditional. How do I know that? Because the form is if plus simple past, right? Then the conditional is I and would, not will, plus the infinitive, right? So that's why if I had a lot of money, past tense, if plus simple past, if I had a lot of money, I would not stay here. Error is in part C. So it's important for you to be familiar with all the conditionals, right? So if there is an error pertaining to first conditional, second conditional, third conditional, you should be able to quickly identify that, right? So if I say, if I study, I would have passed the exam, right? As soon as you see the sentence, you know it's incorrect. What is incorrect? You need to change would to, this would have to will. Why? This is a first conditional. Present. If I study, simple present. If plus simple present, I will. This is a first conditional, right? So any errors pertaining to if conditionals, you need to be thorough with. If I had studied, third conditional, I will have passed the exam. You immediately know this is incorrect. It has to be would have passed. This is the third conditional. So you just need to be able to use them according to the context and which conditional it is, first, second, third. Right? So that's your final error that we have. Rule number 15, if conditionals. So you need to be familiar with all the rules pertaining to if conditionals. Clear? Let's stop here. So I'm guessing all of you, and these are just, I've just collated only 15 rules, but there are so many rules, right? In fact, we have a whole lot of rules packed up with us because every day we have a test, right? We have a daily test with, those who are with Talent Sprint know that. However, what I would suggest you do is, in order for you to be able to spot the errors quickly, you need to be thorough with these rules and keep practicing so you can quickly apply them and be able to identify the errors fast in the test, during the test. That's the whole, objective here, right? For us not to just know it, but to practice to such an extent that as soon as I see the sentence, I know this is what the error is and this is where the error is. Okay, so those of you who still want assistance, you can feel free to log on to www.talentsprint.com/IT. You can check out whatever programs we have, right? See whatever is, suitable for you. We have a whole load of programs, especially catering towards people who are practicing for AMCAT, CoCubes, eLitmus, or any other competitive exams and trying to set foot in the IT sector, right? We have specific tests, company drives per companies that also is available for you. You can take advantage of the same. And if you are looking at, okay, we need some more assistance with this particular question type, feel free to put down a comment. Or if you have any questions also, feel free to put it down. I'll answer that. All right. So hopefully this session was effective for you. Thank you for participating. A lot of you actively participated. Will the mock test be available? Yes, it is available. Thank you, Pramod, for reminding me. Actually, yes, we do have an All India mock test which is published. You can take advantage of that too, which will be scheduled in the next 2 days, Saturday and Sunday. So please don't miss out on that. Do take the test, right? And we'll probably look at some and discuss challenging questions, that you were not able to do well or perform well in. So that's something we will do in the consecutive weeks. All right. So have a nice weekend, guys. And I will see you guys with another interesting concept in another session. Don't forget to participate in the AIM. Take care.